GameQuest is brought to you by Smoky Mountain Organics, East Tennessee's trusted health and wellness store focusing on natural products and organic remedies to a variety of ailments. You can visit one of the 4 locations located in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the newest location right here in Knoxville at 8018 Kingston Pike across the street from Trader Joe's. Smoky Mountain Organics features the best brands in CBD products, bath and body care items, organic teas, and have the largest selections of plant therapy essential oils in Tennessee, plus many more items. Being new to VolQuest, they want you to start it off by welcoming all new Vol fans at any location. If you mention VolQuest, they're going to give you 15% off the total purchase price. That's 15% off the total purchase price if you mention VolQuest. That's on in-store purchases only. So a big thanks to Smoky Mountain Organics. Your GameQuest Ole Miss edition starts now.
It's another game day for Tennessee football and first-year head coach Josh Heupel. Get in the know with GameQuest, a VolQuest pregame podcast with Ben McKee and Eric Cain. GameQuest starts now.
Welcome into GameQuest Ole Miss edition. I am Eric Cain alongside Ben McKee. So glad that you guys are starting your game day with us here today at volquest.com, on Apple Podcasts, and of course on SoundCloud. Man, I got to tell you what, Ben, I have been looking forward to this game so much. This is, in terms of covering the football team, I don't think I've looked forward to a game more than I have this game, because I think it's going to be exciting. I know the atmosphere at Neyland Stadium is going to be electric. Ole Miss, Tennessee, 2 high-powered offenses. I'm ready for a show tonight. I'm excited, and I think I speak for everybody listening right now, the entire fan base, and really a lot of college football. Everybody's looking forward to tonight at 7:30.
Yeah, I'm with you. I haven't been this excited for a Tennessee football game that I have covered since I began covering games. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There has not been a game with this buildup, this much excitement going into the game since I have started covering games in the press box. Now, granted, I haven't been up in the press box very long. This is just my 3rd season up in the press box. So Jeremy Pruitt's 2nd season, final season, and this year are the only times I've been up in the press box. So I was in the stands in the student section in 2016 during those games, and those were fun. The build up to the 2016 Florida game, Florida making comments about ducks pulling trucks and Juwan Jennings going crazy, and that second half of that game, that was a lot of fun. College game day was in town. The build up to the Texas A&M game that year, the Georgia game as well down in Athens, a lot of the excitement in the air those weeks, and that's what this week has felt like. And we had a caller on the Swain event this week put it perfectly, that this is what it's supposed to feel like every single week, and this is what it felt like every single week in the 90s for much of the 2000s. And this is what Tennessee needs to get back to. And I definitely think we've seen enough to assume that Josh Heupel is on track to getting Tennessee back to where it needs to be in terms of excitement. Still a lot of questions to be answered, recruiting, and can he get Tennessee to a point to where they can knock off an Alabama or Georgia or a Florida? But man, so much excitement in the air. The atmosphere is going to be awesome. Stadium sold out. Checker Neyland. Lane Kiffin's back in town. Tennessee football is exciting again.
Yep.
Even if it's only year 1. Ole Miss is a top 25 team on top of Lane coming back to town. Matt Corral may win the Heisman. He's definitely a Heisman candidate. And Hendon Hooker is playing great football in his own right. So just so much excitement, and I'm with you. I don't remember the last time it was this exciting. I guess it would be the 16 season. So I guess technically I do remember, but it feels like forever ago.
And let me just say this right off the top, and I don't want to speak for you, but you can jump in here after I get done and give your thoughts on this. I mean, as you guys saw from our picks that we released yesterday, I picked Tennessee to lose. I think I had it 42-38. Ben, I know you picked Tennessee to lose as well. but I completely think this is a toss-up game. And I understand usually toss-up games go to the home team and all that, but I get that. But the reason I picked Ole Miss is because I'm going to side with, when you have two mirroring offenses, I'm going to side with the better quarterback and the offense that's a year ahead in the rebuild, essentially. And that's the only reason I picked Ole Miss. But I think any team can win this game. I think Tennessee can absolutely win this football game. It's going to come down to making a big stop, taking advantage of the miscues from Ole Miss, winning the turnover battle, all that type of stuff. But this game is completely up to grabs for me. But for the sake of picking, of course, I'm going to go with the more, Ole Miss and the better quarterback and the team I feel more comfortable with. But man, I really do feel like, and again, as you pointed out there, this feeling, this game day feeling, the vibe in Knoxville all week long, this is what it used to feel like. Maybe this is the start to what it could be like again. If Tennessee, you're going to find out a lot about, this football team today, and certainly over the next, month stretch of games, because of course you got Alabama next week, got the off week, you got Kentucky, then you got Georgia. You're going to find out a lot about the football, and there are going to be losses on the schedule. Let's be real. But if you win this football game tonight, Ben, we're going to work Monday morning and we're talking on radio about a top 25 football team. And I mean, you talk about a hell of a job for Josh Heupel. He's already done a good job, in my opinion. But if you win this football game, you will be ranked, in my opinion. You already got votes this past week. You talk about a hell of a first start through 7 games and a marquee win against the 13th team in the country. Great opportunity for Tennessee tonight, and certainly it's there for the taking because, as we'll get into, Ben, that defense, it's not Missouri bad, but it's not good.
Tennessee will definitely be a top 25 team if it wins, and it's going to have every opportunity to win this football game because of that Ole Miss defense that is just putrid, awful against the run, awful against the pass. Obviously, if you're awful against the run and the pass, then you're going to give up a lot of points. So scoring defense, they are not good. Total defense, not good.
12th in the SEC in both.
Yes, it's just abysmal for Ole Miss's defense. I don't have the stat right in front of me, but I believe they are second worst against the run in the SEC and third worst against the pass. I keep getting them flip-flop this week, but point being, they're at the bottom for both in the SEC ranks. So Tennessee's going to be able to put up a ton of points. And just to address what you were talking about with our picks, I picked Tennessee to lose 45-41. And the reasoning why I think Tennessee will lose this game is not because of the offense. I think the offense is going to put up points. I would be surprised and quite frankly, I'd be disappointed if I were Tennessee if I did not put up 40 on this Ole Miss defense. I would be very disappointed because, like you said, not Missouri bad, but it's South Carolina level bad.
102nd in the country in FBS. And so, putting in perspective, I'm not sure where South Carolina is. I apologize. Missouri is 129, which is so bad. But Ole Miss is 102. And so, I mean, that is not getting it done.
Correct. So I would be disappointed if I'm Tennessee and I don't put up at least 40 because it is there for the taking. So I have plenty of confidence in the offense going into this football game, and the uncertainty of Tyon Evans, that is certainly a big question mark and a huge concern. But with Hendon Hooker, hopefully Jabari Small can carry the football for more than five attempts. And even Laneith Whitehead. I mean, I feel like they can get the job done, even if Tyon gets out there and warm-ups and doesn't feel like he can give it a go, or if he gets into the game and he doesn't feel like he can give it a go. Like, I still think Tennessee can run the football, especially because it's looking like Cooper Mays is going to be back. Don't know that 100% certain, but it's trending in that direction. You get Jerome Carvin back over at guard, and you're back to where you were along the offensive line. Now, hopefully Cooper, like Jabari Small, can stay in the game, because when Cooper came back, I guess it was against Florida. I mean, in the second half, whenever Cooper left the Florida game, he did not need to be in there after he suffered that initial injury against the Bowling Green. So hopefully this time when Cooper is back, it's for good and he's able to stay in. So I have plenty of confidence in the offense, but and this is where people aren't going to like what I'm going to say, and that's fine. But I think the defense for Tennessee is going to come back down to earth just a little bit. I don't think Tennessee's defense is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I also don't think it's as good as the stats indicate. And again, I think Tim Banks has done a tremendous job this season. I really do. I think a lack of talent and depth is going to be on display this game for the defense rather than a lack of competitiveness, lack of fire, lack of schematics, lack of X's and O's. This is where the talent difference in Ole Miss's offense and Tennessee's defense is going to show up to me. And here in a minute, we can go position by position, Eric. But I just think Tennessee's defense is going to come back down to earth just a little bit. And that's going to be the difference in this football game for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have not only a guy that's in the Heisman conversation, but I mean, he's top 2 right now. Okay. And Matt Corral, channeling down Tennessee's safeties and Jalen McCullough and Trayvon Flowers, who have struggled at times this year. Tennessee's and the linebacking corps of Aaron Beasley and Jeremy Banks, stuff like that. I mean, I would agree with you. And I mean, let's be real here. It's no secret. I mean, Ole Miss's schedule has been a lot tougher than Tennessee's. You opened up Louisville, then you had Alabama 2 weeks ago, and then you had Arkansas. And those are some good football teams, the last two. And then you compare and you see what Tennessee's done. I mean, yeah, Tennessee has gone out and just beat the crap out of Missouri and South Carolina. And that's good because you took advantage of that opportunity and you ran with it. And that's something to be proud of, and that's something to celebrate. But you scored 14 points in the first half against Florida, and then were shut out the rest of the way. Can Tennessee play 4 quarters of football? That's one of the main things I'm looking for, because against a quality opponent, Tennessee's not done that yet, and that's going to be critical. And again, playing a 4-quarter football game against a quality opponent comes back to what you said. It's you need depth, you need players, and we know Tennessee's roster just isn't built that way right now. So we'll have to see how it fares up against tomorrow. Let's go ahead and just break this matchup down. We can start with the highlights. It's going to be offense, and that's what's going to
more offense.
Yeah, and that's fine, because I mean it's going to be entertaining. It might be the longest game in Neyland Stadium history. Let's pour on some coffee and
do we know the record?
I don't know. I'm sure it's in the game notes if I look it over. But Matt Corral leading that charge. You've got 3 experienced backs. Of course, their best back and Jerry Ely missed last week's game, but 3 experienced backs. You got a couple of good receivers that are really, really good, and a quarterback that has not turned the football over at all yet this year. Last year, man, when it rained, it poured for Matt Corral. He was super talented, one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, but in those games, boy, he was turnover heavy. He's not thrown a pick yet this year. I think he's due. You hope that it's going to happen today if you're Tennessee, but he also affects the game running the football. He's the second leading rusher, 322 yards, a team high 8 touchdowns on the ground, and something Tennessee has struggled with in mobile quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett at times against Pittsburgh, and of course Emory Jones. That is going to be such a challenge for the Volunteers today, is keeping contained, sticking your plant foot in the ground, and forcing everything back inside and running to the football. Something Tennessee does do well, Ben, is run and swarm to the football. They're going to have to be all over it today, because again, this is, you got Bryce Young in a few weeks. I get that, but this is, if not the best, the 1B to that conversation of best quarterbacks you're going to see all year.
I agree. And just to show my work as to why I think Tennessee's defense is going to come back down to earth is mainly up front along that offensive line. Ole Miss's offensive line, I don't think gets enough credit for helping Matt Corral and that offense. They're strong at left tackle with Nick Broker. They're strong at right guard with Ben Brown, and then they're solid elsewhere. So I can see Tennessee's defensive line maybe getting pushed around a touch, and that's the last thing you need when you have Matt Corral back there, and you have 3 running backs that are more than capable. Jerrion Ely, I believe his status for the game is up in the air, but even if he can't play, Snoop Connor is a stud behind him. Henry Parrish, also another great back, and they're really talented at receiver, and those receivers do a great job of helping Matt Corral have the amount of success that they have with Dontario Drummond, Jonathan Mingo, Now, Jonathan Mingo is out with a broken foot, but they also have Braylon Sanders. So they had 3 great receivers. They're down to 2. Mingo's out with a broken foot, like I just mentioned. So just a lot for Tennessee to account for. And I do think that although I may see Tennessee's defense be overwhelmed by talent, I think Tennessee's, I know that this is going to sound cliche and maybe a little corny, but I really feel this way, that they can make up for it with their effort and their intensity. You mentioned it, swarming to the football, a gang tackling, which is pretty much the same thing, just different ways to say it. But everybody swarming to the football when Matt Corral dumps it off on a receiver screen or to the halfback in motion out of the backfield on a swing pass. Just everybody swarming to the football and not allowing broken tackles. I think that's something that Tennessee will do a good job at. And I feel like Tennessee's been a very good tackling team for the most part this season. It seems like when they've struggled to tackle, it's been when it's been late in the game and they've been on the field a ton. It feels like that's when they've missed the most tackles. But for the most part, Jeremy Banks, Aaron Beasley, Theo Jackson, Alante Taylor, those guys are really good tacklers, and they're going to be key. Jalen McCullough, I know he's had his issues this year, and I expect Lane Kiffin to pick on him. He's got to have a big game. Trayvon Flowers got to have a big game. So I do think that there are ways for Tennessee to slow down this offense, even if the offense has more talent by some of those things that we just mentioned, and they have to find a way to force turnovers. You gotta find a way to get. I don't even know if one is enough to create extra opportunities for your offense.
You gotta be +2 at the minimum. +2 at the minimum.
Mm-hmm. And on top of forcing turnovers, gotta win 4th down. Lane is gonna go for it several times. Sam Pittman said on the SEC teleconference this week that Lane going into the Arkansas game was averaging going for it 6 times per game, and that the situation in the game, regardless of what quarter, the distance on 4th down, what side of the field, and Josh Heupel's talked about it too, that Lane's pretty much willing to go for it anytime he wants to, regardless of the situation. So if Tennessee's defense can stop Ole Miss on 4th down and create a couple of turnovers to give the offense extra opportunities to put more points up on the board, then Tennessee's going to have a real good chance of winning this game. In fact, if they do those things, I think Tennessee does win this football game. It's going to come down to, can Tennessee's defense slow down Ole Miss's offense just enough? You don't have to shut them out. You don't have to shut Matt Corral down. You don't have to shut down the receivers, the backs. You don't have to do that. You just have to play good enough. You have to slow them down just enough to keep them off the board and allow that offense that Tennessee has clicking right now to put up points. So I know we're really harping on this matchup between Tennessee's defense and the Ole Miss offense, but that to me truly is going to be what determines this football game, because again, I think you can go ahead and pencil 40 or more points on the scoreboard for Tennessee.
As I wrote earlier this week, and I said in my my Friday Locked On Vols podcast, that you can find literally wherever on every single platform. Go ahead and subscribe there today. Shameless plug. It's the offense. We're all talking about it right now, but I think it's going to be which defense makes that big stop or forces that big turnover late in the ball game. That's going to be the lasting impression, because as you pointed out, that will be the difference in this game, in my opinion, because I think the offenses will be able to run and score, not at will, but, they will find their success and do what they do. Something you brought up there, and I was going to harp on that next, is 4th downs. You can't just play 3 downs. You got to play 4 downs, complete 4 downs, because you mentioned the 4th down success. I'm going to give you the numbers. 75%. Lane Kiffin, Jeff Levy, the Ole Miss offense, 75%, 18 of 24 on the season. Ole Miss has gone for it on 4th down 24 times, and they have converted on that 18 times, 75%. That is incredible, the quantity of the time they go for it on 4th down. So you can't just play 3 downs. You've got to play 4 downs. Now, Josh Heupel said in his Monday press conference that he expected everybody that missed the game to be back. We'll have to see and keep track of exactly who's out there in warmups and all that. But expecting to see Theo Jackson, I think that'll be a big help to Nico Slaughter. Excuse me. And if you get those guys back, you have an emerging guy in Brandon Turnage, who was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. And so he could go in and spill somebody at corner. He can go in there and spill somebody at star. You can go in there and allow Theo Jackson to move back and play a little safety. You can be creative in the back end because, and Rob pointed this out earlier in the week, I think Brent did, I think you're going to have to play a lot of players, not only on the defensive line, but in the secondary as well, because of the volume and the pace and everything that's going to happen with Ole Miss. So it's a great offense. And as we transition over to Tennessee's offense, just kind of looking at the success of these offenses head to head. I mean, you got Ole Miss that is second in the nation with 561 yards per game. You got Ole Miss as third in the nation in 46 yards per game, 46 points per game. You have Tennessee that, is keeping pace in the SEC in terms of, sixth with third in the SEC with 474 yards per game. You have Tennessee third in the SEC with 41.5 points per game. That's seventh nationally, okay? You have quarterback battle with Hendon Hooker actually getting the edge here of 185.9 quarterback rating. That's fifth in the country, first in the SEC. Matt Corral, sixth in the country, second in the SEC at 182.4. You have two teams that love to run the football, okay? Ole Miss is top 5 in the country, Tennessee's 7. You have two great offenses that are going to work here tonight, and that's going to be the show. But when you look at Tennessee, everybody's talking about Matt Corral and Ole Miss and all that, but Hendon Hooker, he is playing lights out right now. Tennessee is running the football at a great pace. Even if Cooper Mays is not able to go and give it everything you need him to give it, if he's able to come out and give you something, then have to leave. You have confidence now in what Jerome Carvin's been able to do at center, and in parts of what Ollie Lane's been able to do at left guard. So, regardless of the status of anybody on the offensive line, regardless of what happens with Tylen Evans in the backfield, if he can or can't go, depending on pregame warmups, Tennessee, as you point out, should run the football. Jabari Small, Lenny Whitehead, Jalen Wright, Pierce, whoever it is, do what you do well and what Ole Miss fails to do, and that's run the football, and everything else opens up from that. So I'm just really excited to see this. And if you look at Tennessee's offense compared to Ole Miss's defense, you got a couple of players. Their best players, Chance Campbell in the middle at linebacker. Otis Reese, the star player, is really, really good. Keydron Smith that plays a little corner, plays safety as well. He is leading the team with 2 interceptions. So much opportunity to get what you want to get accomplished if you're Tennessee's offense against this Ole Miss defense.
Again, I think you can go ahead and pencil 40 on the scoreboard for Tennessee. Obviously, the players don't need to think that way, but I'm not on the team, so I can say that. This Ole Miss defense is not good. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. There's been dysfunction between Lane Kiffin and defensive coordinator DJ Durkin, with Lane essentially throwing Durkin under the bus earlier this week for the defense not doing that great of a job. And
did you see his comments post game?
Those are the ones that I'm referencing.
You can't even blame him either. He was just like, our defense couldn't make literally one stop, and it's just like, you look at the scoreboard, 52-51. Well, he's not wrong.
Yep, that's a fact, Lane. But still a little weird to see him throw his defensive coordinator under the bus like that. And there's been some other comments made publicly as well. So I do think that is a thing, and that absolutely has an effect on the defense. I truly believe that. So seems to be a little dysfunction on top of not being able to stop the run, not being able to stop the pass. And I think Tennessee should be able to do whatever it wants offensively. Again, I am a little concerned about Tylen Evans. I do think that changes the outlook on the running back room, and mainly because the Tylen ankle situation is paired with the Jabari Small's shoulder injury. If Jabari Small was fully healthy, then it would not be as concerning to me, because I think Jabari Small is a more than capable back. I do think Tylen is better than Jabari, but Jabari is a good running back and can absolutely get the job done against the bad defense. He would have gone for 100 yards against Missouri had he been able to carry the ball for more than three attempts, and he would have gone for plenty of yards against South Carolina as well. So that's what makes the Tylen injury so concerning. Yes, he's one of Tennessee's better players. He has home run ability on his runs, but you don't have really any other guy that you can count on in his absence because you don't know what you're going to get from Jabari Small's shoulder. Laneith Whitehead, I like Whitehead, but he's a youngster. He's not Small or Tyon right now, and he's still learning, like you said. And then other than that, it's Marcus Pierce and D. Beckwith hasn't played yet, so they definitely won't throw him in against Ole Miss. So I do think the offense should put up a ton, but there is a little bit of concern, a lot of concern, honestly, if Tyon Evans cannot go. But aside from that, this Ole Miss defense is just bad, just flat out bad, and they do have a couple of good players. I really like Otis Reese. Their nickel, their safety kind of rotates a lot in that secondary. Transfer from Georgia, who the coaches over there at Ole Miss have raved about since he got there last year and had to sit out because of NCAA stuff, because of transferring. Tennessee fans are very familiar with Lakia Henry at outside linebacker. Was once committed to Tennessee and decided to go to Ole Miss, and he's been pretty solid there again at outside backer. You mentioned Chance Campbell, Momo Sinago. He's good. Those are their middle linebackers. Along the defensive line, Sam Williams at defensive end is pretty solid. And they have a bunch of names along their two deep that Tennessee fans should be familiar with. I mentioned Lakia Henry, but Jamon Gordon, the former JUCO defensive lineman that Pruitt was recruiting. You got Taiwan Malone, who Tennessee really wanted last year, but chose to go to Ole Miss. So again, this Ole Miss defense just has plenty of holes in it, and maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself, and maybe this will come back to bite me later on. But I just think Tennessee should be able to. You could go ahead and pencil 40 on the board, in my opinion. If Tennessee's offense is as efficient as it was the last 2 weeks, not turning the football over, not committing penalties, they will score 40 or more tonight.
Well, I mean, yeah, just check your work. Look what Tennessee's done so far this season, and you have every ground to stand on to make a statement like that. Now, will Tennessee score 28 in the first quarter? I mean, fans would like to hope so. I didn't think that would happen 2 straight weeks. I wouldn't expect that to happen again, but Tennessee's more than capable to do what it's done against Ole Miss that it did against Missouri and South Carolina, because again, it's in the roundabout same playing field, in my opinion. One significantly worse than the other, but I get that. Let me ask you this, man. In the midst of this week, I'm putting you on the spot, so I apologize. But in the midst of this week and injuries and everything, and people you talk to, is Jalen Wright going to give it a go? Battling some turf toe, and that's going to be a lingering issue. But will he be available to suit up and if Tennessee needs him to give it a run today?
I think it's a game time decision. I think they'll get him out there in warm ups and see how that toe is feeling. It has been a nagging injury, and unfortunately, he's kind of fallen to the wayside.
If people ask me, is it more the injury or is it more Whitehead? I'm like, Whitehead probably took advantage of the injury situation with Jalen Wright, but he's earned what he's getting right now heading into the Missouri game.
I think Whitehead has passed Jalen Wright.
Yeah.
And Jalen's issue is a little bit of being a true freshman and understanding when to bounce things and when not to, and just also the little details of playing the running back position like pass pro and things of that nature. And then on top of that, he's dealt with a nagging toe injury. So he's kind of fallen behind. I mean, I just listed off all the running backs. If Jabari and Tyon can't play, and I didn't even mention Jalen Wright, and that was by accident, but also because he has fallen behind because of this nagging toe injury. And he did have a good fall camp, but he hasn't lived up to the hype yet, and that's okay. He's going to be a good back for Tennessee, especially in this offense. It's just he's not ready yet, and he's dealing with an injury. So hopefully he can give it a go, because Tennessee's going to need all hands on deck, because even if Tyon can go, even if Jabari can go, you just don't know how Jabari's shoulder, Tyon's ankle is going to react to the first time it takes a hit, the third hit, the fifth hit, the seventh hit. You just don't know how much you're going to be able to get out of those guys, even if they can play.
I mean, battered and bruised. As I mentioned with Jalen Wright, I believe that toe is going to be an issue all year long until you rest. Jabari Small's shoulder, it will be an issue all year long until you rest. No one is ever going to be 100%. In Tennessee, really out. I mean, Laneith Whitehead was on the injury report last week. So, I mean, outside of Marcus Pierce, D. Beckwith, I guess. I mean, you don't have a healthy running back right now, so that's just kind of the nature of the beast, man. It really is. I want to plug this note real quick. Arkansas ran for 350 yards against Ole Miss last week. So again, I understand Tennessee's running back group is battered and bruised, but if you got somebody back there to tote the rock with this offensive line, the proof is in the pudding. Go out there and get you some, because it's going to be out there for the taking. And as this offense, everything opens up from that run game. Josh Heupel's mentioned it countless times. Jerry Mack has mentioned it. Alex Golesh has mentioned it. Do what you do well and then allow things to open up. And I think that's what's going to happen. Plus, Hendon Hooker is going to have to be a big part of the run game, just like Matt Corral will be in this football game as well. Ben, just as far as the environment, how big, and again, I think it does play into a factor. Now, is it the reason a team wins or loses the game? Absolutely not. But how much this stadium is probably going to be rocking tonight, the fireworks show, it's going to be sold out, it's checkered kneeling, all that type of stuff, getting loud, especially on third downs. How much do you expect that type of stuff to maybe play into a factor in intimidation early in the football game? Keep in mind too, I mean, a lot of these, we're over halfway through the season after tonight now. So, I mean, you've gotten a couple of true road games already, but man, when Neyland's rocking, it's like nothing else in college football.
It's one of the best environments in all of sports, quite frankly, not just college football, but good luck replicating that much noise, that much piss and vinegar, so to speak, that many people all in one spot. Good luck replicating that in any sport at any level. It's one of the best scenes in college football, and I think that's one of the things I'm most excited for Tennessee this weekend, is that they get a chance to remind folks how special of a place Tennessee is. In the midst of the losses over the past few seasons and just the negative energy around the program, people have forgotten, not people within Tennessee's fan base or within Knoxville, but college football as a whole outside of Knoxville. They've forgotten how special Tennessee is, what Neyland Stadium is and can be. And I think it's going to be a great reminder on Saturday night exactly what it is. And it's one of the best atmospheres in college football, if not the best. You can't name 3, 4, 5 atmospheres in college football better than Tennessee when Neyland is absolutely rocking. And that's going to be the case on Saturday. Will it intimidate Ole Miss? I don't think so. But it will play a role in this football game, just not in terms of an intimidation way. I think it'll mess up the communication and generate some false starts, a delay of game. I mean, I think you'll see a couple of those. If Florida can go to freaking Kroger Field and have 8 false starts, then Neyland Stadium can generate 3 or 4 delay of games or false starts. So Matt Corral has all the confidence in the world. Matt Corral has that Lamonte Turner mindset to him, that Juwan Jennings type of mindset to him. Go back and watch Matt Corral when he was a freshman and would get personal foul penalties against him like Jeremy Banks, because he was that confident in himself and he wasn't afraid to let you know about it. So he's not going to be intimidated by this environment. If anything, he'll thrive off of it because guys like that do thrive off of those type of atmospheres. But again, I do think it'll impact their communication, and I think they'll struggle to communicate at times. And what better time to do so than if it's 3rd and 3 and all of a sudden it's 3rd and 8 because they can't communicate to the left tackle how they're going to slide the protection.
Couple more things. We'll be brief here. One thing I want to get to before bowl predictions and just hit it really quick. The social media game from Ole Miss this week has been incredible. Okay. That's how you do it, in my opinion. You are the athletic communications department. That's not what Tennessee does, but it's what Ole Miss is doing. They're following the lead and the personality of their head coach in Lane Kiffin. The graphics, I thought had been fantastic. So I have no issue with it. But let me just say this right now, and everybody listening, if Tennessee wins this football game tonight, all hell better be unleashed on those tweets, those GIFs, those trolls. There's been 3 times this week that the athletic communications department have formulated tweets and GIFs and graphics and all that type of stuff and tweeted it out from that Ole Miss football account and just trying to poke the bear of Tennessee, playing checkers with chess, the flag tweet about great environment at Neyland Stadium, all that type of stuff. I love that in college football. Tennessee and Ole Miss are not a rivalry. I mean, they played a ton throughout their history, but they haven't played since 2014. They played 7 times since 95 or whatever. I love that type of stuff. It just adds gasoline to the flame heading into a big game, and I think that's just great stuff. And again, like I said, if Tennessee wins this football game, fully expect retaliation on the part of, more so than already has been, on those social media tweets.
I would love to know how many Tennessee fans already have something typed up in their drafts ready to tweet out after the game.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's do bowl predictions. I'll start us off here. Bowl prediction: Matt Corral has not thrown an interception all year long. He throws 2 tonight. Pick Alontae Taylor, dropped about 3 last week. He's going to get him 1 tonight. So I'll go an interception, Alontae Taylor, an interception, Warren Burrell. We'll stay with the 2 cornerbacks. So bowl prediction: 2 picks for Matt Corral, Alontae Taylor, Warren Burrell.
I like it. That is very bold, considering Matt Corral has not thrown an interception this year. That is very bold. My bold prediction. Where should I go this week? I'll say Velus Jones has over 100 receiving yards and over 100 kick return yards. Yeah, I'm not saying that he'll take one to the house. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to go that bold. I'm going to chicken out on a kickoff return for a touchdown. I almost got it against Tennessee Tech.
Yeah.
But I'll say 100 receiving yards and 100 kickoff return yards. He's going to have plenty of opportunities, and he's dynamic with the ball in his hands, as we know, and he's going to play a role in flipping field position. So 100 receiving yards for Velus plus a touchdown and over 100 kick return yards.
I like it. I mean, the bad thing about, returning kicks nowadays is you see so many touchbacks and fair catches and everything, but I want to see him with the ball in his hand. And like you said, I mean, you kick off 6 to 7 times in a ball game. I mean, you'll have, over a 50% chance a lot of times to try to make something out of it. So I like that as well. Not only is this a big time football game for Tennessee tonight, but a massive recruiting day for the Volunteers. Ben, you have worked really hard compiling a list here. And Tennessee's got tons of commits that are going to be in-house. I mean, probably over 10 commits that are going to be in-house. 5-star Walter Nolan's going to be here. 3-star wideout Caleb Webb's going to be here. A lot for the 23 class, a lot of local talents. A guy that balled out on Rivalry Thursday a couple of nights ago, and Deshaun Bishop, he's going to be back again. As I put that note in the general quarters a couple of nights ago. A lot of talent's going to be here on campus, and a lot of content's coming up on Sunday and next week.
Absolutely. And early Sunday morning. I mean, we'll be jammed packed full of content from like 1 a.m. until Josh Heupel's noon presser to preview the Alabama game, and into that afternoon, and into the Monday night chat, and into the Tuesday podcast, because as we talked about, this game's going to go on until midnight. Yeah. We're going to try to grab some recruits after the game's over and throw those up on the site as we always do. So a lot of recruits in town. Eric just mentioned it. A lot of big time recruits as well. Tennessee's starting to pick up momentum on the recruiting trail. Such a huge game in that sense as well, Cainer. I think Tennessee will leave an impression, even just by a recruit showing up and seeing the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what it would mean to see Hendon Hooker if you're Jaden Davis, the 2024 quarterback, who some view as the top overall player in his class, definitely the top quarterback as of right now. What would it mean to see Hendon Hooker just absolutely ball out in that scene? It would be quite huge, but we'll have plenty of content, plenty of recruits. I mean, literally starting after the game and into the morning and into the afternoon, and we'll have our regular.
I was gonna say throughout the
content.
next couple of weeks as well, because we'll store some of that.
A busy time. You can't get enough busies in there, and then we'll have our regular content, 4 takeaways, and all that fun stuff.
And according number one player for the class of 2022, according to another publication, in Walter Nolan, the 5-star, he's going to be in town, as I mentioned. He was at A&M last weekend. I mean, you talk about everything going right when hosting a 5-star. What happened with Texas A&M last weekend? If Tennessee, with just the environment alone, and then if you're able to pull off a win, you talk about 2 excellent recruiting weekends for one prospect back-to-back. Sky's the limit. So the stage is set. A big night coming up for Tennessee, looking to get win number 5 on the season and SEC victory number 3. And we're going to have you covered all throughout the day and throughout the weekend, post-game, and more here on VolQuest. GameQuest brought to you by Smoky Mountain Organics, East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products, organic remedies to a variety of ailments. You can visit one of the 4 locations in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the newest location in Knoxville at 8018 Kingston Pike, right across the street from the Trader Joe's. And if you're going in store and you mentioned VolQuest, they're going to give you 15% off your total purchase price. In store only, mention VolQuest, 15% off your total purchase. For Ben McKee, I am Eric Cain. Thanks so much for starting your game day with us here on GameQuest Ole Miss Edition.
You've been listening to GameQuest, a VolQuest pregame podcast with Ben McKee and Eric Cain. Stay dialed in to VolQuest.com for complete game day coverage. This has been GameQuest, a VolQuest production.